In August 2019, so before the entire COVID pandemic kind of ruined any travel plans throughout Europe, I visited the Hungarian city of Székesfehérvár. I hope I pronounced that right. The city was beautiful as it was, but really sprung out to me because of a castle that was hidden quite a bit outside the city center. Anyway, that castle was built by a man and his wife over the course of decades, which got me thinking, what are some of the most incredible self-built castles in the world, and how did they come to be? The castle I visited was the Bory Castle. It was built by Bory, a Hungarian architect and sculptor. Together with his wife, over the course of 41 years, he built the castle up from the ground. And that isn't a figure of speech. He literally built it up for more or less nothing. Back in 1912, he bought about 2.5 acres of land in Mariavölgy, Székesfehérvár. At the time, there was just a small holiday home with a wine cellar between rows of grapes growing there. During the initial years, Bory expanded the initial modest house with a studio on the second floor. The Borys visited it during their summer holidays, living elsewhere. Now, in 1914, the First World War broke out. Bory served in the Austro-Hungarian army, and he was involved in planning and constructing the memorial of Archduke Franz Ferdinand and Archduchess Sophia. They were shot in Sarajevo, marking the beginning of the war. Although the memorial was finished, authorities removed it in 1919 due to the collapse of the Austro-Hungarian Empire following the war. Bory required a new challenge, and amidst the remnants of the old empire and the chaos and turmoil within Hungary, he managed to land a job at the Technical University. With this new job, he was finally earning enough to realize the dreams properly he had for his summer house building, albeit incrementally. Around 1922, Bory slowly began dedicating more time to the plots of lands and his constructions, yet Bory never wrote down a fully structured plan to build the castle. He simply went along as he saw fit, incrementally expanding his house with small buildings, gardens, rose beds, a tower and shed here and there. It's amusing that when I went there, I realized that I was in the middle of a residential neighborhood. Honestly, the entire building seemed very out of place. Over the years, it became an oversized mansion and eventually a castle with multiple towers, a courtyard, and with lots of special attention to Hungarian symbolical architecture. Within the castle are lots of statues of prominent Hungarian figures. The walls are decorated with paintings by his wife. There is mosaic art both in and outside, and the garden is filled with fountains, flowers, and steps leading to different parts of the castle. In total, the castle has 7 towers and 30 rooms. There are many round anti-clockwise stairs and little hidden tower rooms. On top of the castle, you have a view that spans over the entire residential neighborhood. The castle shows a mix of architectural styles from Scottish to Gothic to Roman. During the Second World War, Bory lived in the castle, and near the end of the war front came to his doorstep, more or less. The castle was bombed multiple times and the entire structure was badly damaged. The next 14 years, Bory spent rebuilding the castle until he passed away in December 1959 at the age of 80. His wife continued living there for another 15 years. And, well, the Bory Castle has earned its place in the Guinness Book of World Records as the largest building someone constructed on his own. It truly is a magnificent piece of architecture, and all the more imposing once you realize a man spent decades building it with his own hands. Yet, Bory's castle isn't the only castle that started as a project and was built from the ground up. There are surprisingly many located all over the world. Over in the United States, there's another fascinating one-man project. It's the Bishop Castle, named after Jim Bishop, who built it. The castle is far from finished, but it's a massive structure already. Its main tower is over 49 meters tall. It has 3 large cathedral windows, and on top of the front building, there's even an iron fire-breathing dragon. The castle accepts visitors that can climb the ladders and staircases and get an actual look at the mountainside from the arched windows. The castle has a rather fairy tale-like atmosphere around it, with the stone it is built out of adding to that. Bishop bought a plot of land for $450 in 1959 near San Isabel National Forest in southern Colorado. He initially wanted to hunt and live on the land. He married his wife Phoebe in 1967, and 2 years later he started the construction of what was meant to become a family cottage on the property. However, he kept expanding the building, and incrementally the cottage grew into what it is now nearly 50 years later. Together with his family, the house was developed into a manor until it eventually could be described as a mini castle. The story isn't entirely over roses, though. Bishop has had a lot of trouble with the local government. Among issues was that the way he gathered rocks to build his castle. He gathered them from the nearby national forest, which caused anger among bureaucrats that considered him to be stealing from state property. He caused another dispute when he put up his own makeshift road signs to guide visitors to his property, something the local government eventually solved by putting up officially issued road signs. All in all, several reviews and articles describe Bishop as having a bit of aversion against the government, something that is hardly a surprise if you imagine he's the type of person that decides to build a castle on a whim. Back in Europe, in the middle of France, near the small commune of Tréigny, the Guédelon Castle stands. Now, construction of this castle began most recently from the other castles discussed. As a matter of fact, when the Bishop Castle still required a bit of construction, the Guédelon Castle is a real work in progress. And technically, the castle isn't really built by one man, but by a team of 70 enthusiastic members, both full-time employees, interns, and volunteers. I still think the story behind the castle is so fascinating and inspiring that I chose to include it in the list anyway. Back in 1997, the building of Guédelon Castle started as a project by Michel Guyot. Guyot wasn't a stranger to reconstructing and revitalizing old castles. 20 years earlier, he bought the ruins of the Château de Saint-Fargeau. Originally a hunting residence, it was destroyed and rebuilt in the 15th century and improved over the next several centuries. When in 1996 Guyot received the results of an archaeological study of his chateau, it became clear the 900-year-old remains of another castle lay beneath the surface and within the red brick walls. This study gave Guyot the idea to replicate a castle such as that one using the original medieval methods. That means no bulldozers, electricity-powered tools, or any other type of modern techniques. In addition, Guyot decided to use materials, primarily stone and wood, from the local area. Yet the idea to replicate Saint-Fargeau was quickly abandoned as Guyot and his enthusiastic team decided it would be much more adventurous to build a new castle inspired by the architecture of fortresses and castles in the region. They decided to build their castle in the style of the first half of the 13th century. Initially, the team raised funds from the European Union and French government and commercial entities. Nearby the forest of Guédelon, to which the castle thanks its name, this massive construction project started in June 1997. The location was ideal, with timber, sandstone, clay, and water close by. The next year, the construction site was open to the public. According to its website, they have over 300,000 visitors each season, which in turn, combined with gifts and sales, finances the entire construction of the castle. Guédelon is valuable and fascinating because it shows exactly how those giant medieval castles were erected using technologies from that time. Where resources and materials were gathered, how they were transported, and what tools and lifting gears were used. Art historians and archaeologists support the team that's building the castle. As for the castle itself, there's a chapel tower which, once finished, will be 23 meters in height. On the ground floor, there's a cistern with a 6-meter depth. It took 2 stonemasons several months to mine the rim of the cistern out of a 1.6-ton brick. The ground floor is decorated with pointed arches made of limestone. There's a so-called tour maîtresse, a tower that, once finished, should be the tallest, standing at 28.5 meters in height. Inside is a spiral staircase, and to adhere to realism, there's even an opening in the ceiling that allows for the dropping of projectiles on potential intruders. On the first floor are the living chambers of the feudal lord. The living space is 18 by 7 meters. It's built on the inner side of the northern wall with a kitchen, fireplace and oven on the ground floor. I've already touched upon the fact all materials are gathered from the nearby area. Close by is a quarry where masons gather their sandstone, from which, once transported to the construction site, are bonded together with a mixture of limestone, sand and water. Oak logs are cut from the nearby forest for crucial beams, but they create their own hoisting equipment and work floors from pine trees. The primary hoisting tool used is a so-called treadmill, a medieval tool. Some centuries-old etchings survive of this instrument, forming the basis. Even the roof tiles are made in true 13th century fashion. Roof tilers craft both roof tiles and floor tiles. They use clay from the nearby site, press it into wooden molds, dry it for several weeks and then bake it in an oven on site. The fact Guédelon and his team literally revived 13th century castle building methods is incredibly fascinating and makes the story worth telling all the more. Thank you for watching this video. If there's a topic or event you'd like to know more about, let me know your thoughts in a comment. I would also really like to thank all my patrons and channel members for their generous support. I'd love to tell stories such as this on-site with live footage. I believe Patreon could make that possible. And, well, if you enjoy my work and want to support me, consider supporting me via Patreon or becoming a channel member. For just $1 a month, you already gain access to the exclusive Patreon series. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.